Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today. My name is Chris. I'm a technical sales representative from ITM Instruments. And thank you for joining the webinar brought to you by ITM University. Today's topic is going to be Introduction to Portable Precision Power Analyzers with Fluke. During the presentation, we're going to ask you to kindly mute yourself. The presentation should last about 40 to 45 minutes, and we'll have an allotted 15 to 20 minutes time at the end for Q&A. So please feel free to shoot some questions throughout the presentation. If anything, if any of the slides or anything that Jason talks about triggers something, use the chat feature to get those questions in, and we'll cover them at the end of the presentation. Let's see. So ITM Instruments has been working closely with Fluke for many years. We pride ourselves on being a leading distributor of Fluke electronics. This is a result of our dedication to offering you our product expertise, service, and competitive pricing. Today, our presentation will be done by Jason Axelson from Fluke. Jason has been with Fluke for over 15 years as a field support engineer with the North American Technical Support Team. Recently, he was made product application specialist and subject matter expert for power quality, scope meters, and battery testers, and is dedicated to product and solution applications training. He also applies his expertise helping customers and team members with diagnosis and resolution of both technical and product inquiries, and speaks with end user customers to gather information towards developing new product solutions through gathering their insight and needs. Jason, without further ado, I will turn the presentation over to you.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. I've worked at Fluke for, over 15 years. I think it's going on about 17 years in a technical support capacity most of those years. So I'm pretty familiar with most of the Fluke products. So today we're going to talk about the Norma 6000 Precision Power Analyzer. So a precision power analyzer in this case is not a power quality analyzer. So we'll go into some of the differences between those in the upcoming slides here. Let me go over here. So we're going to be introducing the Norma 6000, which has a few model variations. In the picture here, there's a 3-channel and a 4-channel version. The Norma 6004, of course, is the 4-channel version. And then you'll notice that there's a plus there. So the plus versions add speed and torque sensors. So there's, let me go to this here so I can kind of circle it right here. So there's a speed and torque sensor that get added in when you go for the plus version in input capability here. We don't supply the speed and torque sensors, but you can use your own speed and torque sensors to interface with the Norma 6004 Plus, and there's also a 6003 Plus version. So it allows you to interface with those. And anyway, then the advantages, and we'll go through that here in a little bit too, would be is to measure motor efficiency. So having the ability to do those motor efficiency measurements can be used for energy conservation or energy considerations, or motor operational characteristics for derating motors if necessary. Let's go here. So there's a picture of the Norma and generally the front of it. So the Norma itself is battery powered, but does have a handle strap here, and there's also a neck strap for the unit, or shoulder strap. The input power supply connection is just used for charging because the unit's entirely battery powered again. I mean, you could run it off the external power supply if you wanted to, but it is battery powered. Slide here. So what is the Norma 6000? So when we talk about power quality tools, as Fluke's been manufacturing power quality tools for quite some years now, the Fluke power quality device is designed to capture certain events based on a power quality standard relative to 50 and 60 hertz power distribution systems. The Norma 6000 isn't limited to just power distribution systems. But the one other differing factor is that it doesn't characterize event information for you like a power quality tool would. So if you're looking to capture dips and swells and sags and outages, it's not designed for that purpose. So when you're considering a quality analyzer versus an analyzer, the quality is going to break it down into giving you specific details relative to power distribution systems, which Fluke does make a model of the 437, which can also do 400 hertz systems in addition. The Norma 6000 has a couple unique capabilities. One would be the higher bandwidth capacity to measure up to 500 kilohertz instead of just like a 60 hertz limitation. But it can also do DC measurements. So over the years in technical support, Fluke has had a lot of requests for doing DC power measurements over the years, just because of the new energy conservation systems. You know, you have wind farms and solar, and there's a lot of DC involved, battery banks. So the Norma has the capability to make those measurements, where our power quality analyzers are limited to being able to make only 50 to 60 hertz measurements and 400 hertz in the case of the 437. So besides doing AC and DC voltage measurements and current, the unit can also do power calculations and harmonics measurements, but it does it more accurately than a normal power quality analyzer would. The 0.1% accuracy for voltage and current. The power analyzer itself, we do make Class A products as well, but the Norma 6000 is more accurate still over that. The how the Norma differs between the current Norma line is Fluke makes the Norma 4000 and the Norma 5000, and those are primarily bench research tools, so used in research and development. You can take them in the field and measure, but they don't have any IP ratings, and they're not, they require external power supplies and are not really portable. So that's where the Norma 6000 comes in, is it can be taken out in the field and used. The one thing that about the Norma 6000 is that over the years, we've had a lot of requests from customers to measure like variable speed drives and inverter outputs, things that are have a large amount of distortion and high frequency, a lot of cases, all the way up to maybe 8 kilohertz in some drive situations. Our normal power analyzer can't measure that. So the Norma 6000, the precision power analyzer, has the ability to do high frequency measurements on the output side of variable speed drives and inverters or DC to AC conversion systems. We'll show you kind of how that's employed. So in the diagram here, we kind of give you a little bit of an idea on use of where the Norma would be connected in the system. So in the picture here, we have the PQ analyzer, which is our 430 series pictured here, and then the Norma. So the 430 series would usually be power coming into a facility typically, whereas the Norma can be used for measuring inverters, solar arrays, and wind farms, battery banks, and things that would produce, AC to DC, DC to DC, any type of conversion or power conversion there, the Norma can measure it all the way up to 500 kilohertz. So that's what makes it a unique product over the typical power quality tool. The key attributes of the Norma, one of those would be the display is quite large, so it's a very visible display, but it's also lighter weight. So it's around 6 pounds. So carrying it around with you is much easier than trying to carry around a bench product, which weighs a lot more. The battery powered aspect, so the unit can run off of up to 10 hours of just straight battery power. The interface of the Norma compared to our other precision and other precision analyzers is the keypad interface is made pretty easy. The UI is very easy. User interface is very easy to navigate. It has 200 kilohertz sampling, like our 430 series does, which can do transient capture. The Norma, again, isn't designed to capture events specifically, but does have a built-in oscilloscope, so you can capture waveform information. 500 kilohertz bandwidth again, so much higher than the 50 and 60 hertz that most of our tools use. Voltage and current and power harmonics can be measured up to the 100th order instead of just the 50th, so you're getting more towards the super harmonics range. So we can log data also. So you can set it up to log, and it could log as fast as 100 milliseconds to 1 second. You can set up continuous logging, and the meter itself has 32 gigs of internal memory. So you can log for quite a few days if you wanted to. The other unique feature of the Norma is the ability to synchronize and connect together 2 Normas together to give you up to 8 channels for the 4-channel version, or 6 for the 3-channel version. So they could be connected back to back to do efficiency measurements. The category ratings, so category 4, 600 volts. So just like a lot of our Fluke products. And it also comes with a PC application software that could be used for viewing and editing information, creating reports, but also can be used for modifying the configuration of the unit. So real time, you can actually connect to the unit and modify its attributes, but also you can do it through the keypad. So it offers you either way, or either choice. The key features, again, comparably to the other power quality tools that we make, again, would be is you don't have to rely on 50 and 60 hertz only. So this tool can be used on inverters, variable frequency drives, UPS systems, power, any type of power conversion application, and can make much higher frequencies over 1 kilohertz. And then there's some examples here that we have of some of the displays that you would see directly on the meter itself. So very large, easy to read display, very well backlit, so very easy to see. The models, again, we have the 3 and the 4-channel version. And again, the issue with the Plus models is if you want to do motor efficiency measurements, the Plus version would be key, which adds the speed connectivity as well as the torque sensor input. So you have those made available to you on the Plus versions. Also, the unit has a built-in 10 amp shunt. So in the picture here, basically, there's a simple slide window that you can move up or down, and you can expose a BNC connector like a lot of our products use, like the scopes or the 430 series, so you can use other clamps. Current clamps could be used like any of the S series clamps from Fluke or other manufacturers, and you can custom scale them in the meter's configuration, so it's pretty flexible. The 10 amp shunt allows you to make high accuracy, low current measurements in the milliamp range. Let me go here. We also have some different accessories that are offered. So we have a picture here. There's a high accuracy AC/DC current clamp. And Fluke's had a request over the years for a higher current DC clamp. For many years, we had about 1,000 amp was the option, but now we have a current clamp that has a 2,000 amp range for AC or DC applications. And that would be usable with the Norma 6000. And also larger jaw dimensions. The also another option is the differential probe pictured here. It's this box here, but this is actually used for 1500 volt DC measurements. So for those of you in the solar industry, you're dealing with 1500 volt DC values, then there's a differential probe that could be used in conjunction with the Norma for your solar measurements. So I guess take a moment here if anyone has any questions or comments, and then we'll kind of go over where or who would use it, or what the real applications would be of, how are you going to employ a Norma, which would be a little bit different use case than, again, our power quality devices. In this case, renewable energy, electric vehicles, third-party laboratories, research and development, and manufacturing, where high accuracy measurements are required and verification of efficiency in systems is required. That's where the Norma would come in. So usually any type of frequency conversion applications, transformer manufacturing where you need to do efficiency measurements, or motor manufacturing, those would be some applications, as well as, again, solar and wind farms. The one thing about the Norma 6000 is the UI, again, on it. The UI on the typical high precision analyzer is usually pretty in depth. So there's a lot of keypad presses, a lot of setup to get the configuration to make your measurements. With the Norma 6000, a lot of the presets have already been taken care of for you. So basically, you just go in and pick the measurement function you want, and also the configuration you're using, and it's visually represented and pretty clean on the display. So a lot of times, if you have technicians in the field using something portable, they don't have like the time and experience, and well, mostly the time to learn a whole user interface. So the Norma's navigational interface can make it very simple for field support technicians. They just go out and make measurements based on a work order, and they don't need to spend a lot of time configuring the device or learning it. So it makes it quite convenient that way compared to a typical bench analyzer. So a lot of the what we call pain points, or a lot of problems for customers in the field or individuals wanting to use the Norma or a precision analyzer, is accessibility. So the first thing would be is like, of course, if you're doing wind farms and other locations, you could be climbing up scaffolding, or you could be ladders, going across scaffolding ladders, and just all kinds of things that require you to have your hands available to you. So using the Norma, it's not only a lighter tool, so you can carry it with you and battery powered, but also, again, it's very compact too. So easy to navigate and carry in remote applications, and being battery powered. You don't need to worry about not having power locally. The example here, so on the right here would be like our larger Norma product, like the 5000. So the advantage here again is that these are really bench devices. So customers needing to make high accuracy measurements, you'd need to basically hook up external shunts, and then wiring gets kind of complicated. And we basically kind of eliminated that, and you don't need a lot of complex wiring or other, information. It's really pretty clean. So you have BNC connections, and then you have, just regular banana plugs for your voltage connections. So pretty clean and easy, and not a lot of complicated configuration. Plug-in power, we kind of touch base on that. So if you're out in the field making your measurements, you don't have access to run extension cords. The Norma again has a 10-hour battery life, so it can last a long time in the field. Compact size again, so working areas can be really tight. So the Norma again, the bench analyzers you can see are difficult to put in that type of circumstance. And then of course the complicated UI, or user interface. So the Norma's interface has been made much more simpler and easier to navigate over like a typical bench analyzer, where it takes some time to really focus on learning how to use it. And the field technicians may not have that available to them. So we made it a little simpler and easier to use there. The usage cases, again, who can use it and where, really, it's pretty broad. I mean, the real purpose of it is like renewable energy, or again, anytime you need to do DC and AC power measurements, then the Norma, or commissioning work. So if you're commissioning like a power installation, and you want to make sure the efficiency measurements and power measurements that you're getting are what was specified in the contract, then the Norma 6000 can be used for proof of concept, or proof in the field after the installation's been complete. And the large display makes it pretty easy to use for that. Frequency converters and motors, again, electric vehicle controls as well as charging systems. The Norma can be used for all of those things because of the flexibility, again, of its actual power interface, and the frequency range capabilities. But again, much more accurate than a typical power analyzer would be. In this case, thought I had fixed this, but at the top here, these are actually the Norma 6000. It'd be basically the 6003 and the 6003 Plus. And then the same thing would be the 6004 and the 6004 Plus. Basically just kind of gives you a little bit of overview about the specifications here, but the rating is actually IP50 on the tool. So the IP50 rating allows you to work in dusty and dirty environments. It's not waterproof, but usually you're not going to be using it, on the pouring down rain or something, but it's not completely waterproof or anything. So, but dusty and dirty environments, it's IP rated for that operation without causing harm to the instrument. We've already gone over the power usage. RS-485 communications, that's how you would piggyback 2 units together to communicate. So you have double the channels. Let's go slide here. So why, again, the Norma? So battery powered is a huge plus. So again, the other instruments that we're dealing with, like our other Norma series or other bench analyzers in the market, they're really designed for being on a bench the whole time. So not really portable. So very easy to carry because of the battery power and portable size of the unit. The menu interface. So basically, you don't need to spend a lot of time learning a complex interface. So it increases, decreases the amount of time you spend on the product learning it, and just increases productivity and just way easier to use. Connections. So basically, you can just slide the connection one way or the other to expose the shunt or the current inputs. So there's no confusion there on where the connections are made. Accessories. So we do offer a very accurate AC/DC current clamp with a much larger jaw dimension, all the way up to 2,000 amps again. So for larger conductors, like if you're using transportation applications. Category 4 rated, so service entrance rated. So most Fluke products, again, we're all about safety at Fluke, so category rating is really important. So category 4 rating would be for service entrance type work up to 600 volts. But the unit will support up to 1,000 volts from a measurement standpoint. The multiple instruments, so you can connect 2 instruments together. So if you're measuring like on maybe you have a 4-channel connection or 3-channel connection on one side of a process to the other, you can connect up 2 and measure efficiency. So you can completely measure one side of the process and the other side for, like your 3-phase application, or DC to AC, or either way. Bandwidth capability, again, is up to 500 kilohertz. So most of our typical power quality products up to this point were up to 50 and 60 hertz, and again, some 400 hertz. The 100th order harmonic, so near up in the super harmonics range, you can measure much higher harmonic components. And then also offers the digital oscilloscope feature, so you can see live waveform data as well as a vector diagram. So your phasing diagram will be there to you, accessible if you want access to it. It's also there for you visibly. Comparison-wise, so been mentioning some other products that Fluke makes. So how these kind of categorize against each other would be is like over the years for high frequency applications, we've looked towards the Fluke portable scope meters to suffice, but they don't have enough input channels to make the measurements for like a regular power application. 4 channels maximum. So in this case, we can offer up to 4 current and 4 voltage channels for the Norma. The comparison here between like the Norma 4 and 5,000 larger bench instruments would be as if you have, if you need even higher accuracy measurements and a much higher bandwidth capacity. So typically like research and development for like low energy circuits, very small circuits and high bandwidth, then we do offer the Norma 4 and 5,000, which have higher frequency ranges, up to 3 megahertz in this case. But in general, the separation here would be is like with the quality device, you'll see that we do things based on event capture. So again, you'll see some things like IEC for harmonics, event capture. So like the 438 is set up for capturing more event specific information. Norma interface, so again, RS-485 for communications, but of course has a USB interface there, so you can interface with and transfer the information or take control of it via PC if you want to. Software, so a little bit of a different software package over the other series models if you have experience using other Fluke software. Navigation is very similar, but the software itself is a little different. But that kind of breaks down the comparison. The scope, still much higher bandwidth capacity, just doesn't have the same number of channels or the same or near the same accuracy, and can't do efficiency measurements, which is really the main benefits of using the Norma 6000. So is a comparison across the board just because Fluke's been making the Norma series for a long time. So the Norma has been really our main precision power analyzer device on the Fluke family for quite a few years. So it's very precise analyzer. So trying to build off that and to make something more user-friendly and complex for people in the field, or less complex, was the idea behind the Norma 6000. Again, a lot of existing measurements, there hasn't been really the portability there. So, you're kind of stuck with a bench. And this one is very lightweight and again has a very easy to use user interface. AC/DC clamp-on sensors. So, instead of having to use shunts or, put a lot of excess wiring into it, again, using a bench device, you can simply just connect up an external clamp and just clamp into a circuit and make measurements. Measurement accuracy, again, and efficiency is really another reason to look at the Norma 6000. So if you're doing efficiency measurements, then the Norma has the accuracy capabilities for you. The torque and speed inputs, some reasons behind that would be is of course in a lot of manufacturing facilities or just in general, motors consume a large amount of the monetary resources or monetary expenditure going towards power consumption. So the Norma has the ability to, if you're walking the facility trying to look for ways to save money or increase efficiency in the factory, you can use the Norma to make those measurements on the motor to verify that, what is the efficiency of the motors we're using? What's the power there? What, you could also compare it against a NEMA baseline. So besides measuring just the power consumption and measuring the efficiency of the motor to see if you're getting the specs that you need or if you should replace the motor with a more efficient one, you also have the ability with the parameters measured on Norma to look at the NEMA D ratings. So NEMA has a set of standards, MG1 for motor specifications. So like if your motor's outside your nameplate specifications, measurements the Norma can make on your motor gives you some guidance in, well, do we need to derate the horsepower of this motor because its life expectancy is currently being, reduced due to the way it's operating or the type of motor design it is. So the Norma can be used for, doing your NEMA D rating information. So again, target users or people who, in the field who are using it would be like, maintenance, plant operations, R&D, manufacturing, really anywhere you need a portable high precision analyzer to make measurements or instantaneous measurements and show those results so you're getting what you're paying for, or if you're manufacturing, that you've done your job correctly in designing a product. And I think that kind of covers everything about the Norma series. So I'll hand it off to Chris.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jason.
Yeah.
All right. So folks, that was a lot of information, short amount of time. We have plenty of time for questions and answers. So please take advantage of all the time that we have and having Jason on the line with us today. Please use the chat feature to submit any and all questions that you have. We did get a few throughout the presentation. And so let's see, the first that we got, can the Norma 6000 measure a solar inverter?
Yeah, definitely. Yep, the Norma 6000 is set up, one of the purposes actually, or uses for it is solar inverters. I know we've had some capability to do that with the 435-2 and the 438-2, but not to the same degree and accuracy that you can with the Norma 6000. But yeah, definitely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Next question we have, would the Norma 6000 be compatible with a customer's existing 4000 or 4000 plus?
Sure. Yeah, so the so compatible with the existing 4000. So if a customer already has a Norma in service, now when we're talking about 4000s, I'm assuming we're talking about the Norma 6004 plus. But if they have an existing Norma in operation, usually at that point, the intercompatibility of the accessories like the shunts wouldn't work with the Norma 6000. So yeah, if you have like some Norma accessories that you're using for the 4 or 5000 series, those wouldn't work on the Norma 6000. Of course, the built-in Norma, the Norma already has a built-in 10 amp shunt like we have in a lot of the 4 and 5000s already. So then you don't have the need to have an external shunt if your current measurements are lower. But the advantage of the Norma 6000 would be is that you have access to being able to make higher current measurements, and you don't have to use the shunts and wire them in. So, you could just simply open up the connection on the unit and slide it over and just wire in just hook up like a regular Fluke current clamp. Or, if you have another clamp handy, you can use that and then just put in the specification information.
Okay, so, what about a data transfer in terms of, I know that the 6000 you can basically almost pair a couple together. Would you be able to do that with any of the other series as well?
Yeah, so just the only ones that you can back to back like this would be to increase the number of channels. The Norma 4 and 5000 you can build to a certain custom channel size, but once they're built, they're finished. So they're manufactured a certain way. With the Norma, you basically would just add in another unit and wire it in, and you can have up to 3 or 4 additional channels. And then those instruments are synced to each other. That way, like if you're doing efficiency measurements where maybe you're doing 3-phase in and 3-phase out, then that would give you the number of channels you need to be able to do that. And so that's what the Norma allows you to do with the back-to-back connection. But our other products don't really have the ability to create multiple channel scenarios. They're either pre-built that way, or it's built based on the number of channels you need, or actually just supply a certain number of channels and that's it. Perfect. So it's kind of a unique function there.
Yeah, definitely. So reminder everyone, if you would like to submit a question, now is your time. We still have plenty of time. Please use the chat feature. The next question that we have, can the Norma measure DC lighting?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a good question, because that's one that Fluke over the years in tech support, we've had a lot of requests to measure DC lighting applications. And a lot of times the applications are very small loads. So from our standpoint, most of our current clamps on our PQs are designed for much larger loads. So they don't really necessarily correlate to each other very well. But yeah, you can do DC lighting loads with the Norma 6000 actually. And even low energy circuit, any type of low energy circuit really in the milliamp range. If you're using the shunts, the 10 amp shunt can be used for that purpose. But yeah, definitely DC applications like that for lighting.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll just remind everyone, if you do have any questions about stock availability, about price, about anything like that, you're welcome to email ITM directly at info@itm.com, and one of our sales staff will direct you and answer your questions there. The next question that we have, can the 6000 measure a 2000 amp AC and DC on a conductor?
Yeah, so the 6000, if you're going to do those kind of measurements, we would normally recommend it's called the ADI-210S. So the ADI-210S is a current clamp accessory, which does support up to 2000 amps AC or DC. Now, the one thing again that the Norma does allow you to do is that Fluke does make a line of clamps that have an S designation on them. And any S labeled clamp will work fine with the Norma 6000, but for the range you're asking for here, the ADI-210S would have to be the current clamp for us. But if you have a different manufacturer, I mean, you can always talk to our tech support group or call and just talk to us, email us. If you have a different clamp from a different manufacturer, we can take a look at that. But the way the Norma works is that like our 430 series analyzer, you can custom scale current clamps you're using. So if you do have an AC/DC clamp from a different manufacturer, then you could certainly give us a call and we could look at the specifications, but it is designed to interface with other custom, you can custom scale it for other clamps that Fluke doesn't make. But the ADI-210S does support 2000 amps DC and AC.
Fantastic. Another reminder, folks, if you would like to submit questions while we have Jason on and connected with us, please use the chat feature. Next question we have, let's see. Okay, it's an environment temp-wise. So being north of the border.
Yeah, low temps.
Yeah, exactly. So do we have a specific range? I'm sure it's listed somewhere, but do we have an operating temperature range?
Yeah, I think you actually found that last time, Chris. Anyway, it was minus 10 to 50 Celsius. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, that's a good question for operating. Yeah, because definitely you guys, well, being Washington State, yeah, I don't see. We do see some colder temps sometimes, but nothing like up in the north for sure.
All right, so we do have a question for a product recommendation. Customer is working on a new motor design prototype and needs something to analyze the power. Would you recommend anything specific?
Yeah, so if you're doing, well, if it's efficiency measurements, then there's a few ways to approach this for us. I mean, one would be the Norma 6000 we're talking about here, of course. But also Fluke manufactures the 438-2. So the 438-2 can measure, and this really depends on some of the design characteristics, but the 438 was really designed with a motor efficiency function built into it. So you can measure a motor directly, or you can measure on the output side of a variable speed drive connected to a motor. So depending upon how they're driving the motor itself. But it does have the ability to do efficiency as well. And then also can do just input voltage, power measurements, but the Norma can do all those things for you real time also. But the advantage of the Norma really here would be is that it has the ability to make higher accuracy measurements. But if your load is a motor load, then I'm guessing, it depends on how small of a load you're putting on the motor. But I'm guessing, the 438 would work fine also. And then Fluke does make other products that can do regular power measurements, but it just depends on the frequency range. So if it's being driven by a variable speed drive on the output, then something like the Norma 6000 or the 438 could do that. But if you're just making straight up power measurements, you could, as long as the current's within acceptable limits for accuracy, you could probably use almost any Fluke power device. If you need high accuracy, again, the Norma 6000 or a Class A analyzer like the 430 series. But if you don't need really high accuracy power measurements and they're not low power measurements, then Fluke does also manufacture like the 17, 32, and 34, which are really, they can do single or three-phase power measurements. So your kVAs, your kVARs, your power factor, voltage, amperage, frequency, and total harmonic distortion would all be measured. So it just depends on how small of a load it is.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jason. So as a reminder, folks, if you do have any questions, please take advantage while we have myself and Jason here to answer any and all questions. If they are stock related or price related, you can email info@itm.com. I'll just maybe give it 30 seconds to see if anything dribbles in. And, oh, there we go. Okay, so can the Norma connect to a computer remotely, or would it need a wire connection?
It's not set up to do remote connectivity. So like some of our products we have that we manufacture that have Ethernet connections, the Norma itself is just strictly designed for making localized measurements. So it has a USB cable input, so you have to be local to it.
Okay.
Yep, that's a good question on that one.
But actually, I'm happy that came up.
Yeah, remote connectivity is something we get asked about quite a bit with different power quality tools and
Do you think in the future? Do you think in the future that could be something that that would be a possibility or something to look into for the Norma series?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I'm not involved in R&D as much, so I don't know what they're looking at for remote connectivity. The way the Norma was designed originally was like a real-time commissioning tool. So you're kind of out there in the field making your measurements, and you're not like doing like, usually for us, the remote connectivity products fall under like things that where you're recording data for a long time. So you leave it in a field or leave it permanently or semi-permanently, and then you want to remotely access it through like a cloud connection or just like through a cellular modem or something. So there's that type of request, but with Norma, it's kind of like, again, it really designed for instantaneous real-time measurements. So not really storing large amount of log data over time.
Perfect. Well, I will have one last call for questions, folks. Please use the chat feature if you have anything that you'd like to get an answer to on the spot here with Jason.
And then Fluke tech support, of course. But
so.
yeah, but for the Norma 6000, the main thing we've always had requests, just because I worked with technical support for years, was a tool that could do DC measurements for power, and then also could measure frequencies outside just 50 and 60 hertz. So, and then that's, from my own perspective, those are a couple key things that the Norma 6000 does that we've had requested over the years.
So I believe that is all the questions that we have gotten so far. As Jason just mentioned, if you do have any questions that come up after the webinar, you're welcome to contact ITM Instruments directly through info@itm.com. You can go to our website, itm.com, connect with one of our sales reps via the chat feature, or you can also contact Fluke Technical Support directly. So Jason, thank you very much once again.
Yeah, no problem at all. It was fun being here.
Absolutely.
I don't know what your temperature is there for you guys right now, depending upon where you're at, but I think it's gonna be warm again here today in Washington State. I could feel it already.
No kidding. So on behalf of ITM University, we'd like to thank you for attending our webinar today. We hope you found it informative and helpful. ITM is here to assist you in any way that we can. I'll remind you again, website is www.itm.com. Email is info or information@itm.com. And you can contact us for any pricing, availability, technical support, anything that you can think of. At the end of this webinar, we'll have a very short survey that we ask you to please take a couple minutes to complete. Your feedback will assist us in improving this platform, bringing up new topics that you're interested in and pertinent to your application, your business, anything that you can think of. Also, don't forget that as a thank you for attending the webinar today, your name will be entered into a draw to win $100 on your next online order. The winner will be announced on our social media channels, so please make sure to check us out there. Jason, once again, thank you very much for the presentation today.
Yeah,
I wish
definitely.
you and all our attendees a great rest of the day.
Yeah, take care, Chris. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.